What's up, guys? Chris Irvin, the ketologist, coming at you from Austin, Texas. This video is about the 4 reasons why you're not gaining muscle on a ketogenic diet. So this is a very controversial topic. There's a lot of misconceptions out there when it comes to muscle building and ketogenic dieting. You'll hear a lot of people say that you can build muscle on a ketogenic diet, and then you'll hear a lot of people say that you can't build muscle on a ketogenic diet. And the research is also confusing. There's plenty of studies that show that you can and plenty of studies that show that you can't. And I think there's 4 reasons that we're going to talk about in this video for why you're not gaining muscle. And those same 4 reasons are why you see some research that demonstrates a lack of ability to build muscle on a ketogenic diet. So the biggest thing to take into consideration is that we need to tailor our diet and training in accordance to our goals. And if your goal is muscle building, then there's adjustments that you need to make to your ketogenic diet. And those are what we're going to talk about in this video. So the first reason why you're not gaining muscle on a ketogenic diet is a pretty straightforward one. It's that you're not eating enough protein. So protein it tends to be feared when it comes to keto because of this process known as gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is a process that occurs in the body where we convert non-carbohydrate substrate into glucose. Protein can contribute to this. So protein can be converted to glucose in the body. And this is a good process. It's a process that we need because our body still needs glucose even if we're following a ketogenic diet. This is the same reason why your blood glucose doesn't go to 0 when you're not eating carbs. It's because of this process. But what's important to know about this process is that it is a demand-driven process, not a supply-driven process. And I know we've talked about this in some other videos, but your body does not just take excess protein because the supply is there and convert it into glucose. It only does this when it is necessary. So this kind of lack of an understanding of how gluconeogenesis works leads people to fear that if they have too much protein, it's going to kick them out of ketosis. And this leads to lower protein consumption. And one of the things that we've seen in research is that if you are exercising very intensely and following a ketogenic diet, you will lose muscle if you're not having enough protein. We talk about how ketones and the ketogenic diet can be anti-catabolic, but that doesn't mean that if you are training at a high intensity and your protein is really low that you're going to get that experience. Protein is something that you need to make sure that you are repairing your muscles and even building them. So I think for a lot of people out there, you just tend to be eating a lot lower protein. And when we look at the traditional macronutrient requirements of 20 to 25% of our calories coming from protein, 70 to 75% of them coming from fat, we have to remember that these macronutrient recommendations were invented in the 20s when we were trying to treat children with pediatric drug-resistant epilepsy. And that's a lot different than somebody who's trying to follow the diet and improve their body composition and gain muscle. So just because the diet worked for epilepsy doesn't mean that that same exact approach has to be taken when we're trying to gain muscle. So I think that the 20 to 25% protein is too low for somebody who's trying to optimize muscle building. And I think that you should focus on increasing your protein. You don't need to worry about having too high of protein. It's not something that's going to kick you out of ketosis. You're not going to have harmful effects from it. I think there are several therapeutic instances where keeping your protein lower may be beneficial, but I think for a lot of you guys out there who are just focused on muscle building or improving your body composition, the best thing you can do is increase your protein, experiment with it, try to get it up to closer to like 35 to 40% of your calories. Something that we maybe consider something like a modified Atkins approach, and see how your body responds, track your progress, and see if that works for you. In the same category as protein, it kind of leads us into the second reason why you're not building muscle on a ketogenic diet, and that's not enough calories. So a lot of us, when we follow keto, we experience this satiety and fullness that leads to us under eating calories. And there's nothing wrong with calorie restriction. I think that too many people are probably chronically calorie restricting and severely calorie restricting for too long. But I think that in general, calorie restriction is fine and there's health benefits to it. But if your primary goal is building muscle, then you probably need to focus on making sure that you're getting enough energy to allow your body to do so. And that's not to say that I don't think that you can build muscle in a calorie deficit, because I do believe you can. We've seen that in research. We've seen that anecdotally. I've experienced it myself. Being in a calorie deficit, doing DEXA scans after, just simply, optimizing my macronutrients for muscle building, I've experienced that muscle building myself. So I do think that you can do it in a calorie deficit, but if you're trying to optimize it, you want to make sure that you're getting enough calories, and you may want to be in a calorie surplus. So when it comes to this, you may want to consider tracking. So Chronometer is a really good app that I like to use for tracking to make sure you're getting enough food in. I recently had to go through and check my calories. I don't track all of the time. In fact, I hadn't tracked for about a year, and I was doing intermittent fasting and some things like that. And when I sat down and I tracked my calories, I found that I was drastically under eating on calories, and probably one of the reasons why I was not gaining as much muscle as I would have liked to have during that time. So I had to kind of take a step back and try to reformulate my diet so that I could eat enough calories to help with muscle building. And it's not just about the muscle building, it's also about the energy to perform well in the gym so you can elicit those gains. And that actually brings us to number 3 for the reason why you're not building muscle, and that is you're not providing the correct training stimulus. So or not providing enough of a training stimulus. So just as important as our diet is when it comes to muscle building, our exercise is also important. And if you guys aren't following a training program that is optimizing muscle building, so following a more of a hypertrophy style training, then you're not going to be maximizing your muscle building capabilities. So that's something that we really need to consider when we're trying to build muscle, is that if muscle building is your primary goal, or it is up there as being one of your first and foremost goals, then I think that you need to focus on making sure that your training aligns with that. Make sure that you're following a workout program that is going to elicit more muscle damage, and it's going to produce more lactic acid. You're going to be in the higher rep ranges. You're going to be putting progressive overload on your muscles. You want to be following a hypertrophy style program. So if you're not doing that and you're following a strength program, you can still gain muscle on a strength program, but just know that you're not going to be optimizing muscle building if you're following a strength program. And the 4th reason why you're not building muscle on a ketogenic diet is electrolyte deficiency. So if you guys have been following me for any period of time, you know that I talk about electrolytes a lot and electrolyte deficiencies a lot, because these are the reasons why you are experiencing a lot of the keto flu symptoms that you experience when you first start the ketogenic diet. So as a little recap for anybody who's not familiar with this, when you stop eating carbohydrates, your blood glucose lowers, and that causes your insulin levels to also lower. This is a good thing. This is what allows us to tap into fat burning and ketone production, but this also leads our kidneys to excrete more water, which can lead us to dehydration and electrolyte deficiency. This isn't a danger of keto in any way, but it's a reason why you should replenish your electrolytes and make sure that you're drinking enough water. Now, one of the electrolytes that tends to be depleted or tends to be low on a ketogenic diet is potassium. And potassium is an electrolyte that plays a very key role in muscle protein synthesis. So muscle protein synthesis is a process that occurs in the body that's very important for muscle repair and muscle building. So we want to have muscle protein synthesis activated when we're trying to gain muscle. Well, potassium is a very key regulator in this process of muscle protein synthesis. So for anybody out there who's following keto and trying to build muscle, but you're in electrolyte deficiency, then you're not going to be able to provide your body with what it needs to build the muscle. So just as important as getting enough calories and the protein and making sure your training stimulus is on point, having enough potassium in your diet to allow your body to build muscle effectively is also going to be very important. So to kind of recap that, guys, those are the 4 reasons why you're not building muscle on a ketogenic diet. These are also the 4 reasons why research shows that muscle building doesn't happen. This is the reason why we see that muscle building doesn't occur in some of these studies that are published. We have to make sure that we're optimizing our diet and our training according to our goals. If your primary goal is building muscle, then these are 4 things that I think you need to focus on. So thanks a lot, guys. If you found this video to be helpful, please share it with a friend that needs to hear it. If you have any questions about this, please comment them below. And if you have any ideas for next topics that I should talk about in upcoming videos, please share those as well. Thanks, guys.